I'm Peter Hall, classical music host for WNED Classical. And I have to tell you, I was recently at Buffalo Opera Unlimited's performance of Bizet's opera Carmen over at Rockwell Hall. And I couldn't believe the sound I was hearing. So I had to know who is conducting. And it turned out it's Jaman Dunn, who's the assistant conductor at the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. Well, let's fast forward to later this month. Maestro Dunn is back with Buffalo Opera Unlimited, back at Rockwell Hall with a special program called Spotlight on Black Composers. And I want to find out all about that. Jaman Dunn, welcome to our WNED podcast here.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And come on, dish the dirt. What was the secret of your success at Carmen? That orchestra just exploded. What a sound.
Yeah, it really was. And to think that we only had 13 musicians in the pit, it's kind of hard to believe. But everybody was passionate, everybody was ready to play, and it was just such a blast. Great singers, great everybody, such a blast.
And only 13 players.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I see that you've invited over some heavy hitters from the orchestra, from the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra for this upcoming concert. Again, at Rockwell Hall, 2 performances, by the way, Friday, February 25th at 7:30 and Sunday, February 27th at 2:30. Again, about a 13, 14 person orchestra.
No, it's actually quite a bit larger this time.
Oh,
yeah, because we have some pretty heavy pieces on the program, so we've expanded the orchestra. It'll be closer to what some may consider sort of a normal sized orchestra. Not quite as big as the BPO, but bigger than the orchestra we had last fall.
Okay. So the program is called Spotlight on Black Composers, and it includes a number of composers whose music we've heard on WNED Classical. Most prominently, William Grant Still, Ulysses Kay, Adolphus Hailstork, and a name that's new to me, Margaret Bonds. So tell us about Margaret Bonds and why you wanted to include her.
Margaret is a wonderful, wonderful composer. Being a Chicago native myself, I became aware of her music earlier than some because she is from Chicago. She spent a lot of time in Chicago. She was a Harlem Renaissance composer. So, she worked really closely with a lot of people. And her biggest collaboration was with a name pretty much everybody knows, Langston Hughes. She and he worked together very closely. She did a lot of art song based on his poems. The song on the program, The Negro Speaks of Rivers, is a Hughes poem, which I am actually singing on the program. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And the Dessoff Choirs actually in New York City recently released a recording of her cantata, Ballad of the Brown King, which is, a Christmas piece based on the named Balthazar, king of the 3 wise men, of the 3 kings. So she is a wonderful composer and somebody that if you don't know, you should get to know.
Okay. Well, I guess we will get to know her at the concert. And tell us a little bit about William Grant Still, whose music, well, I would say over half of the music, it seems to me, is by William Grant Still, very famous Black composer. But I'd like to hear you talk about him.
Oh, yeah, of course. So actually, Buffalo Opera Unlimited some years ago, I think it was 2012, did a similar spotlight on Black composers, and it was only music of William Grant Still. And so when I was approached about this concert, they said they still wanted to feature him in a prominent way, and I agreed. But I also wanted to make sure that we were also introducing people to new names that they may not have heard before. And so even though he's not the only composer on the program, he is still an anchor and a rock. As a lot of people a lot of people's entrance into African-American composers, and then they pretty much branch out after him. But he has written in so many different subgenres of classical music. He's written ballet, he's written symphonies, he's written operas, and so I tried to take something of each of his different genres and present it on this program.
Well, looks like you've succeeded because we're going to get an African ballet with singers, dancers, and orchestra that apparently premiered in Rochester back in 1931. Am I saying this right? Saji?
Yes, that is correct. Saji.
And so, wow, something for everybody. So tell us about this ballet.
Well, this ballet is a wonderful piece. It's very tribal in nature. Some might liken sort of its themes to Rite of Spring, another intensely tribal ballet. The Western New York premiere, believe it or not, was with Buffalo Opera Unlimited back in 2012. So in a lot of ways, this is, a repeat performance. So, but it's this ballet about Saji, who is the wife of a chief. And she is interested in someone else, and the chief goes out hunting, and the chief is killed in the hunt. And one of the tribal traditions is, if the chief dies, his favorite wife must join him in death as to accompany him. And so Saji is torn between killing herself as a part of tribal tradition or living for this other person that she has fallen in love with. And so the ballet resolves that at the end, which I won't. No spoilers.
Okay, well, looking forward to that. Now, I mentioned some heavy hitters, and one of them is the huge voice of Chicago's Sirgourney Cook. Folks who were lucky enough to get over to Kleinhans for Joanne's Classical Christmas got to hear Ms. Cook on stage. It's a powerful voice. So I take it, have you two collaborated before?
We haven't. However, fun connection story.
Okay.
Her husband, Julian Cook, he teaches at Houghton, and he's a pastor at Macedonia Baptist Church. He and I, believe it or not, went to high school together in Chicago. So we were classmates, but we had fallen out of touch. Yeah. And then when I moved to Buffalo, we got back in touch, and then I was introduced to both of them, and he's also a wonderful singer in his own right. But it's just so wonderful to have these connections, and I'm so happy to work with her on this.
Oh, well, when I saw her name, I was sold. But also over from the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra, their principal harpist, Madeline Olson. Folks have, I hope, by now seen her on WNED TV in our special Spotlight series. She's somebody special, and she's going to be playing a work by William Grant Still as well. Tell us about this one.
So this is Ananda, his harp concerto. It hasn't been done very often. It was something that actually I introduced to her a couple months ago, telling her that one day I would love to perform it with her, but I didn't know when. And so she's been preparing, getting ready. And then I asked her about this, and she was more than happy to be a part of it. This piece is written for harp, piano, and string quartet or string orchestra. We're doing it with string orchestra. And Ananda is actually an African harp. It's the name of an African harp. And so Still wanted to sort of hearken to themes of African harp while using the Western harp as we know it.
And also a sound that is familiar to Buffalo audiences. Everyone who's gone to one of the guitar concerto competitions and has heard Rodrigo's Concerto to Out and West, that lovely middle movement with the English horn solo, they know the sound of Anna Mattix, and you've invited her as well. So tell us about the work she's going to feature in.
She is featuring in Pietà, which is a wonderful work by Ulysses Kay for English horn and string orchestra. Anna actually premiered the piece in Western New York, the Western New York premiere of the piece last season for the Buffalo Philharmonic.
Right.
And it can be found on the BPO. I'm just going to plug my job here. It can be found on the BPO's CD Light and Time of Darkness. So you could also hear that if you get that CD from the BPO. But Anna is fantastic. She's a wonderful collaborator. We've been very close as musicians and colleagues since I've been here, and I'm just so happy to be able to perform this piece with her.
And also, it was featured on part of the series of, during the pandemic when we couldn't go to Kleinhans.
Yes,
it was featured on one of the broadcasts emanating from Kleinhans Music Hall, which we see behind you now. Appropriate background.
Yeah.
I think my background's a little colorful. I'm going to have to.
Yeah, well,
tone it down a little.
I like purple. Purple's actually my favorite color. So.
Okay, well, we can trade. There's also what I'm assuming. I think I've heard it before. Mother and Child, William Grant Still. It's from a suite for violin and piano, and you have Inga Yanoski as the soloist there.
Yes, Inga has been a performer with Buffalo Opera Unlimited for quite some time. A wonderful freelancer and teacher in the area. I actually taught with her at Buffalo String Works for a period. I'm just really happy to have her join us and to perform this wonderful, wonderful work. It's sort of like longing, and it's just a beautiful work to hear the violin be able to sing in this lullaby that still writes.
Well, looking over the program, it seems like you've got a number of these very evocative, tender, beautiful works. Was that programming done on purpose, or it just worked out
Yes.
that way?
Well, a little bit of both. I programmed things that I felt would have a continuous theme. Of course, the anchor is representing still in all his different genres, and then being able to plug in different things. And so I wanted to make sure that I encapsulated a synopsis of the Black experience as an African American, as I see it, and as a lot of African Americans see it. Of course, I don't speak for everyone. This is not a broad brush painting, but it's just a synopsis as I see it of the African American experience, which is also why I ended the concert with the Hailstork, because it's such a piece that sort of evokes the triumph of the African American through all trials and tribulations thus far in our history in the United States.
That would be Symphony Number 2
Yes.
by Adolphus Hailstork.
Yes.
Okay. Now, better than anybody that typically in a concert situation, audiences are introduced to one Black composer, and probably surrounded by more traditional European composers from the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. Okay. This program is something special. It's all Black composers. So I want to ask, what are you hoping that we in the audience get from this? Apart from a great afternoon.
Yeah, of course. Great afternoon, great evening, depending on which day you come. But I hope that the audience can take away the same thing that a lot of us take away from when we go to concerts of traditional European composers. We always have this thought in mind of, oh, the composer must have been thinking this, or this must have been their experience, or this is what, I'm feeling or hearing in the music. African-American composers are no different. So I just hope that the audience can come and just listen and interpret and walk away feeling that they've heard something maybe they liked, maybe they didn't like, but it is something that they heard and was different, and they could see some things behind it.
Okay, and I would jump in and reinterpret the word different as maybe it's new, or the names might be new. Yeah. But from my experience with the works that I'm familiar with on your set list, this is gorgeous stuff, man. Yeah. This is beautiful music.
Yeah, I guess I should have clarified. I meant different as in new, as in not having heard before.
Sure. I mean, the title of the afternoon or evening, come Friday evening or Sunday afternoon, is like my promotional material here. It does say spotlight on Black composers, but it could just as easily say, spotlight on gorgeous music. Gorgeous music.
Wonderful.
Any final thoughts?
I'm really, really excited. I'm grateful to Buffalo Opera Unlimited for giving me sort of the free reign to just program this concert. I really hope that, excuse me, I really hope that everyone really just comes and enjoys themselves and realizes that there's some great stuff happening all over Buffalo. And, and I'm happy to be able to perform this concert with Buffalo Opera Unlimited, and I hope everyone enjoys themselves.
Well, I certainly do too. And again, I mean, you're hearing it straight from the assistant conductor of the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra, Jaman Dunn. But you might think, well, he's got a vested interest in promoting this program. After all, it's his show. So I will tell you, as a neutral party and over 2 decades of broadcasting classical music on WNED Classical, this is shaping up to be one of the great concerts in Buffalo. It is superb. The soloists you've chosen, the selections, wow, and the variety, vocal and ballet and chamber music and big orchestral music. I mean, it's going to be quite something. So I'm encouraging everyone to to come. And Rockwell Hall is big enough for
Oh yeah,
for everyone.
it's big enough. 2 nights. There's plenty of room. Come on down.
Wait a minute, my last name's Hall. That's my line. Come on down. Maestro Jaman Dunn and bass soloist, vocal soloist, to be sure. Thank you so very much for chatting with us, and really looking forward to the program.
Of course. Thank you, Peter, for having me.